feature presentation. We're very fortunate to have Magi Scallion to talk about getting women into the mountains. Magi is a cross-country skier and a trail runner and the founder of Retreat Golden, a place to nourish your being. Magi is also featured in the second issue of the BCMC newsletter. So if you haven't read the newsletter, please do so. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Magi.
Thank you. I just created a bit of a photo slideshow, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully everything works. You guys can see that? Nice. Okay, cool. That's me running with my dog. My name's Maggie. I live in Golden, British Columbia, and I grew up in Nova Scotia, the mountains of Nova Scotia, and that's really where I started my love for the outdoors. My parents were very active cross-country skiers and runners, and I was one of 4 kids, and the only way to hang out with mom and dad was to go running with them. Yeah, so we had a little ski hill in Wentworth, and it was just a really great place to grow up, and lots of woods to wander in. Like as a kid, I remember just wandering through the woods alone or with our family dogs, and just really enjoying kind of the outdoors and that sense of independence and that sense of empowerment of being outside. I spent 4 years in Ontario going to university, and then I moved out west to Canmore, Alberta, to cross-country ski race. And that's where I got into a lot more, oh, that's me running at Queens, a lot more adventuring in the mountains. And because I was cross-country ski racing and we had to train like 30 or 40 hours a week, or sorry, 20 or 30 hours a week, I ended up doing a lot of really amazing mountain runs with friends of mine, because we had to do, 5 or 6 hours a day of zone 1 training. So this is a photo of me and my friend Gudrun and my friend Sabrina up at the top of Whistling Pass, I believe, which is near Sunshine and near Shadow Lake Lodge in Banff National Park. And that was one of the most amazing runs I did during that time. It was about 42 kilometers, and we ran over Healy Pass and out by Shadow Lake, and it was a great time, not only because we got to go and see these amazing mountains and we saw a huge grizzly bear, but also because I was with 2 other women and we were going out and doing super cool things in the mountains without, I don't know, needing the support or of a larger group. It was really cool just to do it with women, and I found it a very empowering experience and a very team-like experience. And I found that unique because I've often worked and trained otherwise with men, being an athlete at that level. And Sabrina and I ended up going to the World Mountain Running Championships together in New Zealand in 2015. That's a photo of our Canadian team. Small little team. And mountain running is not as cool as it sounds. We ran a city circuit in Wellington, New Zealand. So we were definitely running up and down quite steep hills, but we weren't off in the wild. So I realized pretty quickly maybe mountain running wasn't going to be my sport. And through this whole time, I was cross-country ski racing as well, which is why I had to do all the big training hours. And I raced at a World Cup level in cross-country skiing before I retired at age 24 or something, quite young, and then got a real job and went into a phase of my life where training and being outdoors was not necessarily a priority for me. The career was more a priority. And I think for any athlete, that's a time where you lose yourself a little bit, because you start focusing on work and you lose your fitness, and it's a really kind of confusing time for your identity. And also, I just didn't have as much time to go out and do these amazing adventures that I was doing with my friends in the past. And I really missed that as well. So I had a period of time where I worked in Canmore at the Canmore Nordic Center Provincial Park, and then I went and did an MBA in Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver for a year and a bit. And then I realized I would rather live close to friends, kind of in the big mountains inland. So I moved back to Golden, British Columbia, and I've lived in Golden ever since 2013. When I moved to Golden, I had a bit of a crisis as to what do I do with an MBA in a small town, which there didn't seem to be many jobs, and everyone told me I was overqualified for the ones I did apply for. So I went back into my exciting role as an entrepreneur, and I started a trail running race called the Golden Ultra. And it was a 3-day stage race. One day was a 1,000-meter vertical gain over 5K up the Kicking Horse Mountain Resort ski hill. The second day was a 55-kilometer circuit on trails in Golden that went essentially from the valley bottom up to the top of Kicking Horse Mountain Resort again, and then back to town. And the third day was a 22-kilometer more rolling trail run on the other side of the valley. So it was a pretty cool race, but it wasn't my first rodeo in organizing events. And I really, really wanted to have women come to the Golden Ultra. And my intent for doing that was not because I was a woman and it was empowerment. It was because I'd observed organizing events that women tend to be loyal. And if they have a good time at an event, they're going to come back the following year with their friends. So you get a really strong returning clientele that are happy to spend money, happy to stay in hotels. And so I just thought that was a better clientele than generally a male clientele. And as registration opened up for the Golden Ultra in the first year, I realized there weren't that many women registering for the event. It was more like a typical running race where it was 60% men and 40% women. So I decided that I was going to do a trail running and yoga retreat. And we would trail run on some of the Golden Ultra trails, and that would help me promote the Golden Ultra to women. And that's really the genesis of Retreat Golden. It was a Golden Ultra trail running and yoga retreat. And when I hosted that, I realized how much fun hosting retreats is, how much better it is to get to know the people that come to run with you, because you just have more time to socialize over a 4-day weekend. It reminded me of my training camps as a ski racer, because we did yoga twice a day, we went running, and we ate really healthy food. And I think one of the coolest things too is just meeting all these women that came on this retreat, hearing a little bit of their stories, and seeing how much they benefited from learning things that I just thought were totally intuitive, or going places that they were scared to go alone, but with a group of women, they were keen to go. So this is a photo of my first women's trail running and yoga retreat. We had 33 participants, I believe, from all around Alberta and British Columbia, and I think even a couple from Saskatchewan. I had my friend Eleanor Fish come up from Colorado to talk about mindful running and running form. And I had my friend Kristen Stewart come from Canmore to teach the yoga. And yeah, this is a photo of the high note run we did. So on the Saturday, I like to do a longer run and take people a little bit out of their comfort zones with a bit of a challenge. And we ran the Ice Line Trail in Yoho National Park. It's about 22 kilometers when you do the long loop. And then there's a 15-kilometer shorter loop, and a group of women did, I think, about 10K. They kind of did an out and back, so they got some views and went back. But this was a really cool experience just because these women hadn't ever run here, and it was just something they'd never done. And so running in the Alpine and seeing some glaciers and jumping in glacial lakes was really neat. And I think you can see in the vibe from the photo, this is halfway done and we're all getting sunburns and definitely pushing ourselves further than they had in the past, and everyone was just so excited. Yeah. And then this is a photo of the yoga studio we had in one of the houses that we rented for the retreat. Yeah, and that was a really important part of our weekend. And I think really it kept people alive because most of them weren't used to running that much. So having a bit of restorative practice was great. And then after I did my first trail running and yoga retreat, I was like, oh my God, these are so fun. And I love cross country skiing too. So I hosted a cross country ski and yoga retreat in 2016. So the first running retreat was 2015. The first ski retreat was in 2016. We even had some guys sign up for the ski retreat. There's usually 1 or 3 that come along. And then that's a photo of the ski retreat. And then in 2017, I took a group up into the Esplanade Range outside of Golden for the first time. And the Esplanade Range is all under the tenure of Golden Alpine Holidays, and they have 4 huts up there. And in the summer, they typically have done hiking traverses from hut to hut. And most of those are fulfilled through Yamnuska Mountain Adventures, and it's a lot of actually Japanese folks coming on hiking trips to the Rockies, and they spend it's kind of a Monday through Friday in the Esplanade Range. And they hadn't Golden Alpine Holidays hadn't had any running trips up there before, so we were the first one, and it was super exciting for me because I got to helicopter in, and you can see the trails were not amazing for running, not your typical running trails, and it was quite high elevation, but we had a great group and we had absolutely fantastic time running. It's about 7 to 10 kilometers hut to hut, so we went and checked out some peaks along the way, and yeah, beautiful views. This is Haley, one of my tail guides, and she's standing in the Esplanades, which is in the Columbia Mountains, Purcells, looking across at the Rockies that you see across the valley there. And if you see a little bit of water in the bottom, that's Kinbasket Reservoir. So you get really beautiful views of that all along as well. The huts were cozy. They sleep 12 guests and 4 support staff. So we all, rainy days, it was great to snuggle in around all the couches. And the huts are really cute. This hut, Vista, has like blue cushions. The second hut has green, and the final hut has red cushions. That's how you tell them apart. And this is Maggie, not myself, but Maggie, who came on our first trip. She came from Toronto and had never run in the mountains before. I don't think she'd run more than 12 kilometers in her life, even on paved streets. And she challenged herself, and she came out and came running in the mountains and had a great time. And I think that she left just believing more in herself, like knowing that she could do something that she didn't originally think she could do. And this is my friend Charlotte running along one of those ridges up in the Esplanade. We had some bad smoke one summer, and that's why the photo is so smoky and gray. And so 2017, I did the first Esplanade trip. 2018, I did my first retreat at Nipika Mountain Resort, which is just outside Radium, north of Radium, on the border of Kootenay National Park and right on the Kootenay River and the Cross River. And they have a whole bunch of cabins and a bunch of trails and lots of places to go running and adventuring and paddling and relaxing. Food is always a really big part of my retreats. Healthy homemade food. I try my best to have the best backcountry chefs come along. And I think that really improves the experience and gives everybody good fuel. And also the chefs I hire are very personable. So oftentimes people leave with great recipes and a better understanding of nutrition, which is, I think, a key part of being a healthy, active outdoors person. Nipik has a beautiful barn, so we often practice our yoga in that barn, and you can see the antler chandelier there that was made by one of their friends from Antler Sheds, found I think in the Columbia Valley near Nipika. And our Nipika retreat is also dog friendly, which I have a dog, so I absolutely love it. There's normally just as many dogs as there are humans, and we have an absolutely amazing time running through the woods. Another gratuitous food shot because it's just after dinner. And then, yeah, 2019, my last year of operating retreats before COVID, had other ideas. We had our first retreat in Naramata, and there aren't a ton of huge mountains around Penticton and Naramata, but you can get up pretty high, and they actually have an absolutely fantastic trail system. So this retreat, we went running in the mornings, and we did wine tasting in the afternoons with yoga mixed in and good healthy food as well. And this is just a shot of us at one of the wineries having a laugh. Another photo from one of our wineries. We had guests on this trip from Florida and California. They had a lovely time. And actually, I had promoted the trip as like a wine tasting trip because I enjoy wine. And neither of them drank at all. They just came because they wanted to experience Canada, and they were avid runners, and they thought that destination looked cool. So they came to all the wineries and sipped water and just had a good time as part of the group. And the girl from LA actually joined me the following year on the Esplanade up in the mountains, and really was like nervous to go on that trip, but had a great time as well. So sometimes it's about building those relationships in the more front country atmospheres, and then you can really help people get past their fears and into different areas. Yeah, and I don't know, like I titled this "Getting Women into the Mountains." I think what happens is really I wrangle women into this idea of a wellness retreat, and then manage to surprise them by taking them outside their comfort zones and making them feel comfortable and at home and supported, doing things they never thought that they would do. We've had on our trips a number of people who have severe allergies to different things, who are very nervous, and I think just the atmosphere of being with a bunch of women that cared and had different skill sets really set them at ease. I have one lady, she's actually in this photo, she's wearing the pink long sleeve shirt with the red backpack in the middle. Tina, she's terrified of heights. And when she told me she was scared of heights, I just assumed it meant like, don't go near a cliff. But her fear is more of side hills. So I've taken her on a couple trails that definitely were outside her comfort zone, and she's made it through, and she keeps coming back. And she's told me that she's much more comfortable, like in situations she'd never been comfortable in before, because of that sense of being supported and trusting the group you're with and being able to move through terrain. And I should mention, we don't just rashly take people off into areas that aren't safe or they're not comfortable with. We do a really good introduction and explain what's going to happen. And all of my guides have their 90-hour wilderness first aid that's recertified every year. And we've done navigation courses, and I actually took the professional interpretive guide course last year. So we also have good knowledge around flora and fauna and history of the Rocky Mountains and Columbia Mountains especially, which is a small passion of mine. And I think it really adds to a trip when you can tell the story of the place and of the animals that are there and why the rocks look a certain way. And I've been very grateful that my fun work, the side of the desk work that I do, which are these retreats, can allow me to educate myself in different ways. Yeah, so that's kind of it. I just wanted to talk about what I do and just emphasize what a great experience it is to get out with groups of women, like women leading women in the mountains. I'm sure that you guys have a lot of women's only trips and groups. But it's absolutely amazing for leaders and participants to be part of. And I mean, I can say I'm not an incredibly strong backcountry skier, but every time I've gone out with a group of women, I felt better about every single decision we've made because it's been more collaborative, just the different communication styles. So I think, yeah, there's lots to be said for keeping people, yeah, together sometimes. So if you guys have any questions, I'm open to questions.
Thanks very much, Maggie. That's very inspirational. Yeah, thank you for sharing your passion with us. And it's a nice combination, running and yoga. Any questions for Maggie? Please send it through the chat, and I will make sure that I'll run through it and make sure that your questions will be answered. So, any questions from out there? Everybody's just overwhelmed, absorbing.
I just did such a good job explaining everything.
No, it's true. From Nicole, how versatile are the food options, like being a vegan?
Oh, you have to try harder than being a vegan to challenge me with food options. We have like vegans on every trip, and yeah, we're super accommodating with food options. There's always people with lots of intricate dietary challenges, and our chefs are absolutely out of this world amazing. And we also do our best to source local produce and anything we can locally. So it's, yeah, those are our values. So we like to force them on everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. I obviously promoted the retreats, but also I just think having women together is like the coolest thing. And if you haven't done an all women's trip, I just highly recommend it.
A question from Nadia. Your photos were amazing and your retreat sounds really fun. I'm more of a hiker than a trail runner. Have you ever hosted a hiking and yoga retreat?
Yeah, I haven't hosted a hiking yoga retreat, mostly because I'm not injured enough to stop running yet, but the day will come. And also my Esplanade trips, if I have a critical mass of people that are more interested in hiking than running, I often am able to bring a hiking guide along. So it's technically a trail running retreat, but there is a hiking only component to it. Yeah.
So do people mention it when they send in the registration that this is their preference? Is that what you would suggest?
Yeah, normally I have an email exchange with people as they're registering. Mm-hmm. Just even to acknowledge that they're registered and answer any questions they might have. And yeah, mm-hmm. then I can be best prepared for what's going to happen.
And a question back from Nicole, how many excursions usually happen each year?
Yeah, I plan to do 4 trips a year, COVID permitting. So I think what I'm going to do in the future now is 2 trips up to the Esplanade in July, August. So one will be a traverse trip and one will be staying at their ultra fancy hut and doing yoga and not having to pack everything every day. And then I'll do a trip to Nipica in the fall with the dogs and a ski retreat in the winter.
Okay, so probably one winter and 3 summer
Exactly.
excursions. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Anders. So Ertan, my partner is terrified of the backcountry. She worries about bears, mountain lions, and anything else with legs. Any advice to help with that?
Yeah, I get that a lot too. And I am also nervous around those things coming from the East, obviously. But I was lucky enough to have a very good friend. I still have this very good friend who's a wildlife expert. Her name's Kim Titchener, and she has Bear Safety, I think is her company name. But she does wildlife training for recreationalists, and she actually has a whole bunch of stuff online now. I'll send Kathleen a link maybe, and then she can share it with you. So that was, everything's online now, but before that I've been through training with her multiple times. So one of the very first things I do when the whole group is together is I do a how and when to use bear spray safety talk, and I buy a whole bunch of cans of inert bear spray. So it's just water, but it's in a pressurized can and looks just like bear spray. So we can practice spraying it. Everyone knows what it feels like. I have a number of statistics and pieces of information that just make people feel more safe. Like the fact that bears just don't aggressively approach groups of 4 or more, and we're always in a group of 4 or more. I like to say it's women because we talk so much that they just can't stand to be around us. But yeah, it doesn't matter. A group of 4 people, bears aren't going to come up and be like, "What's up?"
You're saying,
same
Maggie, that
thing.
you tested out on each other, right?
Yeah.
Actually, a partner and I had some leftover bear mace, and we did test it out on each other out in the team range for fun. And, you know, it's got a bit of a zing to it, shall we say? But it's good to experience it once in your life.
Yeah.
I do
know
like
that.
hot peppers and hot food, so it actually wasn't as hot as some of the hot sauces I eat anyway. So relatively mild by comparison.
I have a very good friend who she was the wildlife interaction specialist for Yoho National Park for a number of years. And she said back in the days when they were allowed to haze each other in orientation, she got sprayed in the face with bear spray and only saw in black and white for like a day. Like just it's horrible stuff.
It's only 2 million Scoville units. It's you haven't lived till you've eaten something that's 6 million and up anyway. So
yeah. But anytime you get it in any of your eyes or ears or mouth, it's so effective when used properly. And so I like to do that training with the inert so people are comfortable with this tool that they're given and they know how to use it in case something does happen. But I'm also able to provide those statistics and anecdotal stories and whatnot that make people just feel a little bit more confident about going out in the woods. Like, okay, yeah, definitely something can happen, but chances are low. This is what we're doing to prevent it, and moving on. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a second question, second part of the question from Ayrton is when organizing an event with the BCMC, is there anything I can do to make it feel more inclusive and welcoming for women?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds bad, but I think the best thing you can do is to have a female leader in some way, shape, or form. Just, I think that makes women already just feel more confident that they can communicate in the way they communicate and be heard. It's just a bit of a social thing that's maybe a bit ingrained from years of being alive on this planet, but otherwise making it like, I think green circle, or like easier types of events, more wellness based events. It's something that's more like, my impression is that women aren't as interested in going to a peak and coming back down. Like, they want a fuller experience than that. And whether it's,
you think they should be left to die on the summit, you're saying. You're saying.
well, I mean,
In other words, getting to the top isn't good enough. In other words, getting to the top and coming back down, all they have to do is get to the top. It doesn't matter if they get back down. I'm just teasing you with the language.
No, I understand. I just, like, for me, I was talking to my friend Matt today. I'm like, I am not motivated by a summit at all. I'm motivated by a good experience. So if we make it to the top of the hill or not, doesn't matter. As long as I have, like, I'm with good people, we get some good views somewhere, and there's cold beer at the end, or cold wine, or yoga, or whatever it is. Having that, like, more complete experience. Or like my friend Eleanor, she does these mindful running retreats, which really, she's just going running. Like, they just get up, they go running, they have lunch, they have a nap, they do the same thing the next day. And she does a little bit of talking about, like, being in the moment when you're out there. And she has tons of women that come on these retreats, but it's really just running, but it's adding that more comprehensive experience to it.
I find as a male leader now it's in doing trail building, and it used to be back when I first started, we'd have one woman or two, and now I might have 20 women. So it's the ratio has dramatically changed. And one of the things I find is as a male leader with a large, if not even a majority of women being on a crew, is that being open to the idea that they might have a better idea or way of doing it than I do. And I think that's the key. So in other words, allowing different ideas and a way of presenting it. So say, I think we should build it this way. And I go, I didn't think about that. I think that is better. Let's build it that way. I think that's one of the best ways as a male leader to, I think, make a diverse group feel comfortable. Is not the old, I know best, it's my way or the highway. I think that's a thinking, if you can get out of, really helps.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah. I think anything you can do to be more open to communication, like two-way communication, is always good.
As opposed to being a dictator?
Yeah, exactly. And I make tons and tons of jokes about myself all the time, to the point where sometimes I'm like, maybe I seem like a totally incompetent leader, because I'm always about how I mess things up and make mistakes. But
self-deprecation always works.
People come back. No one's dead. Big win.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's that down-to-earth, practical attitude as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the audience? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Well, thank you again very much, Maggie, for joining us. Really appreciate that. I'll definitely look up your website and look into some retreats. Great. Yeah.
Thank you. And I just dropped the 2 links for Kim's programs.
Hey, yes, bearsafety.com and recsafewithwildlife.com. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, and to the rest of the participants, thank you very much for coming to the socials tonight. Actually, this will be the last one until September. But before we sign off, I just want to let everybody know that there will be a volunteer appreciation event in July, Tuesday, July the 13th. More information will be forthcoming, so I'm working out the logistics. So please stay tuned for more information, and hope everybody can come out and join us, because as BC starts opening up, hopefully we can have more people gather outdoors. Otherwise, thanks all for coming. Have a great summer and stay safe. And thank you again, Maggie.